All right, let's dive into something really cool today. We're talking about a super clever new way to train AI that just might solve one of the biggest headaches in the entire field. So it really all boils down to this one huge question. We've been throwing basically the entire internet at these AI models, but what happens when we run out of good human-made text? I mean, are we seriously about to hit a wall? And that brings us right to our first topic, what's being called the AI scaling wall. Because, this incredible boom we're seeing in AI, it's starting to look like it's heading straight for a major roadblock.
So let's break this down, because it's pretty straightforward when you see it side by side. On the one hand, our compute power, our ability to build these massive AI models, is just exploding. It's growing exponentially. But on the other hand, the high-quality data we need to train them, well, there's only so much of it to go around. We're building these supercharged engines, but we're running out of fuel.
Okay, so before we can really get the genius of the solution, we've got to understand the problem with how things are done right now. And that means looking at how these models learn, which is, well, pretty much word by word, painful word.
Right, so the standard method is called Next Token Prediction, or NTP for short. And at its core, the AI just learns by constantly guessing the very next word in a sentence. I want you to think about it like this. Imagine trying to learn a language, but the only thing you ever did was guess the next word, over and over. You'd get pretty good at spotting patterns, sure, but would you really understand the language? Probably not. It's more about surface-level memorizing than actual deep understanding.
And that brings us to the new idea, the new path forward. It's a whole new paradigm called RLPT. And the big idea here is teaching AI to reason, not just predict. So, RLPT, it stands for Reinforcement Learning on Pre-training Data. And honestly, it totally flips the script. Instead of just predicting the next word, the AI is now trained to predict the next idea. We're talking a whole chunk of text, and it gets rewarded for getting the meaning right. This is a way smarter use of the data we've already got.
So, what do you get when you focus on reasoning like this? Well, you get two huge advantages. First, it forces the AI to dig deeper and actually understand the thought process behind the text, not just parrot it back. And second, by letting it kind of explore on its own, it builds skills that are way more flexible and adaptable to new situations.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how in the world does the AI teach itself this stuff, especially without any new data from humans? Well, the secret is this really clever self-supervised loop. And this is where the magic really happens.
Let's walk through this cycle, step by step. First, you take some normal text and break it into meaningful chunks, like sentences. Second, the AI model has to try and predict one of those missing chunks. Third, and this is the cool part, a different AI, a reward model, acts like a judge. It looks at the prediction and decides if it makes sense, if it fits. And finally, if the prediction was good, the main AI gets a reward, which reinforces its ability to reason. It's like its own little classroom with a teacher and a student all in one.
Now, to make sure it gets really good at this, the AI doesn't just do one thing. It switches between two different jobs. The ASR task is like being asked to write the next chapter of a book. The MSR task is like being given a book with the page torn out and having to fill in the missing text. By juggling both, the AI is forced to get good at coming up with what's next and understanding the context all around a missing piece. It's a pretty brilliant workout.
And this quote from the research, man, it just nails the core idea. See, the key is that the reward isn't for getting the exact words right. It's for capturing the same meaning. The AI can use different words, phrase it a little differently, but as long as the idea is the same, it gets the point. This is so much more flexible and, frankly, a much smarter way to learn. Okay, so we've got this super clever new training method. It all sounds great on paper, right? But the billion-dollar question is, does it actually work? Well, let's take a look at the results, because they are seriously impressive.
First up, on a major general knowledge benchmark called MMLU Pro, this new method delivered a huge 5.1% improvement. That's a big deal.
But wait, it gets better. On another test, a really tough graduate-level one that's designed to be Google-proof, it jumped a staggering 8.1%. And just to prove this isn't some one-trick pony, they threw it at something completely different, math. It scored a 6.6% boost on a super complex math reasoning test. So we're not just talking about a small tweak here, this is a fundamental boost to reasoning across totally different subjects.
But maybe the most exciting part is this. The research shows RLPT has what they call favorable scaling behavior. Now that's a fancy way of saying something really simple and powerful. The more computer power you throw at it, the smarter it gets. The improvements don't level off. And that suggests there is a ton of potential for even bigger gains down the road.
And this might be the most mind-blowing part of all. You can actually start to see a kind of thought process happening inside the AI. It's not just blurting out an answer anymore. You can see it. First, it understands the context. Then, it figures out the logical next step. And it even seems to check its own work before giving the final answer. I mean, wow, that is starting to look a lot more like how a person thinks.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. RLPT is a total game changer. It shows us a way to get much smarter, much more capable AI, not by desperately hunting for new data, but by teaching our models how to reason with the mountains of data we already have. It's a fundamental shift from just memorizing to actually understanding.
And that really leaves us with one last huge question to think about. If AI can now teach itself to reason, to think more deeply using data that's already out there, what new frontiers is it about to unlock? What's next?